Wednesday, February 15th. And this is planning and zoning meeting for the town of Bluff. I am Marcia Haydenfeld, and I am the vice chair and sitting chair for this evening, as Amanda has asked to be excused for business meetings in Phoenix, of all places. So she's nice and warm. No. So we are going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. And I would like to call for roll call from the planning and zoning team. Marcia Haydenfeld.
Malia Collins.
I heard Malia and Ed.
Melissa Aggie.
And Melissa, thank you. Let's see, town council.
Luann Hook.
Great. And we have Erin Richards here as our town manager.
Erin Nelson, and the meeting started at 6:02 p.m. for the record.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, I see a couple of other people online, one of whom I believe will help us in one of our presentations tonight. So I am hoping that we will just progress through. Erin has been kind enough to take over tech for us this evening. So Erin, if you would, we would do the approval of the minutes. And if you could just show us the minutes, that would be perfect. All right. So if we slide down slowly, we'll see if anyone put anything on there. I think I did just a couple of little, I caught the date. Okay. And Melissa, you have a comment.
Yeah, I believe I abstained from the minutes, voting on the minutes because I did not attend the meeting. Just wanted to clarify that. If that's what other folks remember. That's what I remember.
Yes, that's correct.
I do, Melissa. Thank you. Luann Hook, you mentioned that you have a comment, please.
Yes, up on the town council part, the update from town council, there are a couple of corrections.
Okay.
There. The first one is where it says with 2 sessions, let's see, Bike Utah on 323 with stakeholders. It just would be with 2 sessions on Friday the 24th, one for stakeholders and another to hear from residents. Those are all on the 24th.
Oh, you're right. It doesn't quite say it as 2. Gotcha. Good. Okay, go ahead.
And then the next one is where we say we put in the PTIF government investment. It's PTIF instead of a P.
Okay.
And then the last one is where it says the CDBG, noted a CDBG grant. It's for the community center, not the old school. So it's the regular.
The actual Bluff Community Center. Okay.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to make sure that was clear that we're doing other grants for the fire suppression, but no remodels or anything over at the old school. This is all community center.
Okay, great.
But yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Luann. Slide down, anybody?
I would have put comments in, but I sent in a request to edit, but I don't know where it went, or I could never find my way back there. So,
okay.
So if this does, if there's a better option, let me know. Otherwise I can just make notes.
Okay. Maybe when you're meeting with Erin on Erin's email, maybe you can find the little editing button and she can show you. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. The editing was there. I just wasn't allowed access. And I don't know if that access came through. I requested access, but I couldn't find it again to know if I had access. I didn't get an email, but anyway, no biggie either way.
Melissa, you have the next comment, which I actually agree with. So go ahead.
I'm glad you agree. I just wanted to clarify. I don't think it was the land use clearance was saying like 2 houses. I think it was like explaining the addition to the house. So just for clarity in the notes in the minutes.
Yep, yeah, I like that. The word structures. Yep.
I don't know what the actual word used was, but just to clarify.
And then it has been suggested that we not put the word canceled on this item for the Clark request. So please just leave it as the item was postponed. And you can take off, Malia, the part where I thought it was canceled. Thank you. I misunderstood the direction.
Thanks, Marcia. Sorry about that.
No, I think it's fine. I think
Team
I
effort.
disagree, but I also understand where that's coming from. So it's fine. No problem. Okay. All right. We have done the ones that we've noted. Does anyone have anything we missed? Anybody got any comments for the minutes? Okay. I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
What? Okay. Ed made a motion, I guess, to approve the minutes as corrected. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Melissa is seconding. Any other discussion? Okay. In favor of approving the minutes as amended, aye.
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 Okay. That's a unanimous vote for all of us here. Thank you. Thank you, Erin, for putting us up. Okay. Public citizens to be heard. I see a couple of other people have joined us this evening. Does anyone have any comments for us about items that we're not about to talk about on the agenda? Is there anybody who wants to talk to P&Z tonight? Please just unmute or let me know. I'm not seeing anything. Going once, going twice. Okay, I think we will close the portion of public citizens and move on in our agenda. Luann, would you like to take the update from town council, please?
Sure. So we've had two meetings. We had one on February 7th and then one yesterday on the 14th. These were the two meetings. I kind of combined several of the things popped up on both agendas, but I kind of combined information. One is the public hearing. There's been a talk of a public hearing to be set for requesting alley or street vacation. That hasn't been set yet, but there is an application on the website to show the process of doing that. There's also going to be another form added on providing if you want to do work or activity on the right of way or work on a town road or an alley or that sort of thing. Let's see. And then at the old school, there's several grants that have been in process. Jim Sayers was successful in getting one that was just right at 80,000, and that's in the bank account and ready for help with the fire suppression. There are a couple more. There's one with USDA one, and there's another through the EPA. And then there's another one, Inflation Reduction Act is looking promising. So there are quite a few options there. The playground equipment there is going to have to be removed, demolished, and taken out. And then let's see, the playground at the new school it's a state law that those are open and available to citizens unless there's some hazard or that the public is creating a hazard. So that will be open. It's for the local kids to be able to go play or the visitors. So that was cool. The BLM is looking at trading 3 parcels of BLM land that are within the town of Bluff to Sitla and trading out for Bears Ears pieces. So that's an interesting development. And they're on the river bottom in the floodplain area are the 2 main ones. And then there's one that goes up to the highway out by the mission. And then Debbie Westfall and Tina Krutsky came to the meeting last night to request a trailhead for the East River access that would go down and connect to that piece of property to use the old school, the right of way at the old school to put a trailhead. And that has been diverted to a work session. And let's see. And then the roads committee had a request for some signage in the subdivision, Copper Cliff subdivision. And it looks like what we're looking at is that's the subdivision's responsibility and right to put up what they like within their own subdivision. And the highway signs like coming out to the highway seem to be UDOT, but we're clarifying that to make sure that those are UDOT responsibilities. It's interesting to see there were quite a few that are not signed. And I think it just depends on visibility and level of traffic and all the rest of that. So that's what I had in my notes. Did anybody see anything else in minutes or anything that questions?
Luann, just for clarification, you said BLM and Sitla are working on their exchange stuff. So does that mean the town is just informed of this, or do we get to sort of comment but no authority? Is that kind of how we take it?
Well, it
I
sounds
can
like
take that
still.
one.
Okay, go ahead, Erin.
Yeah, so I was part of the initial call. So we have been informed that these lands were proposed in the trade. We don't have any information as to whether BLM or even Sitla are aware that these are in the most recent proposal. So this came to us Monday after someone learned of it Friday night. So it's kind of a developing story, but it's more of just like that's what's in the proposal right now, and not necessarily like a given. But we don't know how quickly it's going to move. The person who brought it to our attention didn't know quite how quickly it would move. So that's, the map itself is posted on the town website under resident resources. So you can go and look at the exact land that is in the current proposal.
Thank you, Erin and Luann. I just wanted to figure out what we were talking about, but going to the map will help.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, any more questions for Luann or comments? Any other town questions? All right, thank you, Luann.
All right, you're welcome.
We will move on to new business, and our first new business is land use clearances, and we do have one this evening. We have one presented by Kate Aitchison and Brian Whitney, and I believe Brian is with us. I'm going to give him a minute to unmute and see if he's really there.
I am really here. It's true. It's not just.
All right,
true.
Brian, thank you. Let's do it this way. I'm going to introduce what we're talking about, and Erin is putting it up on the screen for us. And then if you would be so kind, Brian, is to take a moment and tell us what this all means, that would be perfect. And then we can stop and ask you some questions and such to figure out where we are. So here is the land use application, and it is for your property over, for those of you who didn't quite figure it out, it's kind of behind where Dawn is living next to the Decker house. And those are descriptions of terms from the old days. Anyway, Brian, would you just take a minute to tell us what you're asking for, please?
Yeah, absolutely. We're hoping to build it's essentially an addition onto a pre-existing structure that's on the property. On that plan that you see right now, Erin, if you wouldn't mind, can you go back up to the first image quickly? Across from our main house, the L that sticks out on the left is the current. It was Ann Walker's writing studio, and that we would like to build off of it and create a guest house and a little casita that is, I think it's like 500 square feet in total, a little bit over that maybe. And it's a single-story building that one bedroom with an office and a bathroom. Yeah, it's just something that essentially the idea is that we just made our official move out here to be full-time, and I left a large family behind in New England, and they're all very interested in continuing to be part of my life. And so we're trying to expand, and our house is not very large, so we're just trying to create a space for people to land, and also a place where maybe Kate and I will every now and then stay when it gets awfully cold, because our house has so many windows. It gets awfully cold in the winter, but yeah. So I don't know if that's as you can see, and if you scroll down to Erin, you can see from these ones, it's a single story. Right now it's like 10.8 is the peak. It's a pretty flat roof. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, if there's any more questions, it it would be connected, if you go to the site plan too, that little green, or sorry, the blue square is just represents the addition to it. So it wouldn't, it wouldn't be reaching onto any of the roads. It enters and exits onto our private driveway that's already there. I believe it's within the setback requirements. It's not, it's something like 50 feet away from the edge of our property. Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, you can run from your family, but you can't hide. They're going to follow you everywhere. Okay, so does everyone understand the presentation is made? And if so, do you have any questions or concerns to present for Brian? Anybody? I will tell you, Brian, that I took a walk the other day and walked the property. I trespassed along your private drive. And my main concern, I think, was just what is your property line versus where this is. And so that private drive is within your whole property, is it not? It's not.
I believe it is. That's a thing that I think it is essentially right on the edge of the property line.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe it is, if not slightly maybe expanded out of it, but it is, my understanding of it is that the property line is the edge of that drive.
And you can make that whole loop. It's a loop drive in
Yep.
one way and out the other and vice versa.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. Yep. Okay. I walked it and it looked perfectly sort of natural. Go ahead, Melissa. I see your hand.
Yeah, just a quick question. And this is maybe outside of what we as the Planning and Zoning Commission, and maybe even you, Brian, but thanks for presenting this. It looks great. One question, when looking through the documents submitted, especially related to the sewage disposal system, as the title of the document says, curious why, oh, I just answered my own question. I was reading the wrong field. Okay, that's great. I was going to ask about the public and private piece, but I get it now. Okay, so I just want to make sure, and it looks like correspondence here comes alongside the permit, letting us know that the septic has been like approved. Like,
oh yeah, right. We weren't totally sure how to present that they had. So we included the email. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, so I just want to note that we're seeing that as applicable according to the correspondence from, I assume, the county. So thanks for including that. And we have asked pretty much every other person when they submit a land use clearance to just like note the property, like the distance from the structures to the property boundary. And if we're uncertain where the property boundary is, that sounds like a question. If I were you, I'd want to solve, but I'm not going to tell you how to live your life. But if you can mark it looks like from the road to the proposed structure is 27 feet, you'll meet those setbacks. I just want to verify that those dimensions are accurate.
Yeah, I went out and did all of the distances that are listed on the drawing, the site plan drawing that we submitted. That 27-foot mark from the edge of the road, I measured, and so I did that the other day. So those are all accurate.
Okay.
The 52 is the one that I need to just verify completely. I know there are boundary markers that Anthony has told me about, but they're apparently covered in bushes somewhere out there. So I need to go. I'll be back in town this weekend, and I'll try to cut some bushes down and find the exact corner. But
cool.
My understanding of it is that it is.
Yeah, it seems like it should be a non-issue as long as like the drive is within your property, like Marcia has alluded to. So thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Great. Thank you, Melissa. Anyone else with a question or comment to clarify anything they see? Okay. We have before us a request for a land use clearance for an addition to kind of an ADU, basically is what it will end up being. And I would entertain a motion if someone feels comfortable that we've met all the requirements. By the way, I should explain that Kate's name is on this. This is Kate's husband, Brian, and Kate had said she had a meeting tonight. I was hoping Brian could answer the questions. Or could be here, and I feel really comfortable that we're talking to the same people, just a different face. So I just wanted to clarify that you see a different name, but.
That's a good way. We are the same person.
Sorry.
No, that's good.
Luann, do I see a question? Oh,
Yeah, and I usually don't comment in these, but I do have just sort of a general question, and this sort of brings that up. If they build this small unit next to what is a bigger unit, will this be the second? Like, will this be the smaller one, or will the other one be the smaller one? And I'm wondering if that limits one way or the other to the property. Like, can they build a bigger one that then the other is the ADU and they're just building a bigger one? Or are they committed with this is my question.
Well, I think there's two parts to the question. First, let's let Brian say what he's sort of calling this or what they anticipate. And then I'm going to answer a little bit more of it. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, I think I would think of it as the ADU. Also, it is smaller than the main house. The main house is, I think the main house is on paper, it may be 800, a little bit in between 800 or 900 or something square feet. So it is actually the smaller one.
Okay. Luann, I'm not quite sure what you're asking, but in the answer, Brian is saying they live in the big house. This will be an ADU. And my next part of that answer is our zoning codes do not discuss density. What they discuss, which is something we've all sort of chatted about in many of our meetings, and that is that on residential property, as long as you meet the requirements of setback, septic safety, culinary water safety, things like that, you can fit what you can on the lot. So at this moment, they have a big house. They're building the little guest ADU area. And since they seem to have some extra lot there, it's possible they may come back someday. But, at the moment, I believe they're just looking at, like Brian said, a place to put all the family when they come. So Luann, does that answer kind of where you were?
Yeah, I think it does. And like, say in a situation like this, and I don't mean to be specific to them, but if somebody came back and wanted to expand on one or the other of those, they would just claim one as the bigger and the other as the ADU, because they're probably both ADU size, right?
Well, they're both kind of little, but yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I think, yeah.
Just like if somebody were to come back in and want an addition on one or the other, that should be okay.
We'd have to look at it, but presumably it would be okay.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, Marcia. I was just
it's definitely a point of discussion that we've had a few times as to people keep coming in to increase what's on their land, how much that can they do, and that's going to have to be totally separate from certainly what Brian and Kate are talking about. But it is, I think, on our notes as P and Z that we want to talk about it or just look at it.
Okay.
Thank you, Luann. We are looking at an LUC from Brian and Kate. What do I hear from the team? Do we need a motion? Do I have a motion?
I motion to approve it.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion from Malia with a second from Melissa, and that is to approve the LUC for an addition onto the little writing studio. Any more discussion? Any questions? Okay, all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we have 4 in favor. It's unanimous. Brian, thank you very much. And Erin, if you would be so kind as to help me with getting a signature and doing the thing where we get it signed and get it off to Brian and Kate so they can follow up, that would be terrific.
Absolutely. And Brian, real fast, sorry, Melissa, would you like to receive a physical copy or an electronic copy of this approval?
Electronic is fine.
Great. We'll get it back to you.
Too. Yeah.
Melissa, what did you want to follow up with?
I just wanted to add, and moving on from this land use clearance, but just in general, whenever we redo any of our forms, I'd like to ask that and this is just like maybe another thing, like on the land use clearance application, we might want to add like the property boundary size, like how many acres or whatever, as a fillable field on our land use clearance application. But that's not something we can solve tonight. Just raising that, that would be really helpful for other discussions. Thanks.
Actually, Melissa, it is down here on the LUC Ordinance for clarity. And so we can put it in our notes right there and add it, because when you catch things like that bug you, those are the things we want to fix. So I'm just going to put square foot on LUC app, and we'll discuss it later. Perfect. Thank you, Melissa. All right, Brian, thank you so much. You will hear from probably Erin, but myself and Erin in some way. We will get it signed and get it off to you.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Yeah, you guys as well.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we have our next under new business, and that was a question, excuse me, that was a question from Sharon Collyer regarding the tiny house discussion. And basically what she's saying is that she and Russ are talking about getting some tiny homes to use in the employee housing crunch that we all know that we have. And if you recall, Sharon is the person who has a tiny lot kind of behind the restaurant, like a block and a half up from there. And she was questioning how many trailers or how many homes or whatever. The end result of that discussion was pretty much what Luann and I just mentioned, and that is, if you can properly fit something onto your lot, no matter how big, then you have a viable place to put something as long as it fits setbacks, safety for septic, and safety for sewer and any other amenities that have to fit. So now, as I understand it, and I'm not sure, Sharon, are you on here somewhere? I don't see you. Basically, this question comes to us: do tiny homes fit that description of something that fits on your lot? And I think I sent you all just our little paragraph that talks, or in definitions, it talks about what a tiny home is. And that's really all we said about it. We didn't say, but you can only have 1 or 7 or 4 or whatever. We just said that's what a tiny home is. So I'm going to start the discussion with, I believe the answer to a citizen, whether it's Sharon or anyone else, I believe the answer is, if you can properly fit it onto a lot, then you can put them there. I was wondering if everyone could have a comment or question or a note to add to that, and then we can pass along sort of our discussion to Sharon. Go, Melissa.
Couple things. First, I think you're correct in that we cited a definition, and then maybe that's something we need to figure out later is what do we do about that. I'll agree that, to the best of my knowledge, as long as you can fit the structure, meet the setbacks, and like septic, wastewater on your property, I think that's a go. I guess based on some of the content, I would say we need to decide if a tiny home still on a trailer, like still movable, is a tiny, like, we need to figure that part out. Is if it's still on wheels, what does that mean? If it's still movable, what does that mean? Or if it's set to stay like permanent, whatever that means. Like, do we take the wheels off? And if we don't have that written in statute, then we cannot hold any citizen to, we can't hold any property owner to any standard that doesn't exist on paper. So those are what come to mind. And I know we had talked about that property in a prior meeting. So if we need to reference any statements we made then, I don't know that we have anything that's really changed since that discussion, but let's just make sure we're still accurate in what we're saying.
And I would say, Melissa, I completely agree with you with what you said, particularly that trailer part. But if you notice, in the definition of tiny home, we say permanent or non-permanent. So we've sort of answered ourselves. However, does it not go into our discussion of RV park? Meaning, are people carting these around and moving them? So I think we have that next part yet to discuss. So I completely agree, Melissa, that those are the points to be made. However, in the end sentence that you used was, if we've got it in writing, they can do it. So I know. Oh, that was a great comment. Who's next? Go, Malia.
Yes, I agree with your statement, Marcia, that with what we already have in writing, I didn't realize it said permanent or non-permanent, because I was also agreeing with you, Melissa, on that statement that if it's wheels, do we consider it an RV? Do we consider it a tiny home? And it would probably depend on how we're defining each of them. So we probably just want to separately define what is a tiny home. Does it have to have drywall in order to be a tiny home, or does it have to be an RV that is sold by an RV dealership with this and that about it, and it might be that we need to define what each of them are in order to further define this, I guess.
No, thanks, Malia. That's exactly, I think because we wrote the definition to say permanent or not permanent, then for tonight's discussion, they can have it on a trailer or not a trailer. However, when we get to our next section of things we're discussing, that may well come up. So I agree. Let's see, Ed, did you have anything to comment on this?
No, I'm good with the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. Okay, here's my take on this. We did not have an applicant come to us tonight for an answer. It is my suggestion, if you all agree, that I would go ahead and write an email to Sharon. I will, in fact, copy all of you to say, in our discussion this evening, we believe that tiny homes are welcome on your lot as long as they meet all setback and safety requirements. Everybody good with that?
Yes.
Thank you. Excuse me. Okay, in that case, I suggest we move along. And we'll see if Sharon has any concerns or questions on that, then we'll ask her to have to be at the meeting so we can do more. Okay, thank you. The next item on our agenda is called physical posting of minutes. And I believe that that's a discussion based on the fact that at one time we said, were the minutes supposed to be posted? As Ed had only been directed to post the agenda. I believe that the answer is only the agenda had to be posted in public places. And Erin is nodding her head, so I'm going to let her take over.
So this definitely would have gone more to Amanda, but from my understanding on what Amanda told me or sent to Marcia and myself is that correct. For planning and zoning specifically, you just need to post the agendas. The great news is agendas and minutes and all the other stuff can be found on your shared drive and through public access. Now, if we were to ever get comments from the public, we'll just direct them there. But no, everyone keep doing what you're doing. Thank you for doing it.
Perfect. Thank you. That takes care of that. Don't mute yourself, Erin. You're up next. And that is email procedure for shared P&Z email. I was so excited to get my new email, and I think I've got some of it down. But every time I say I do, Erin says, not exactly. So yeah, go ahead, Erin.
That seems to be a common thread for the town. So for the email procedures, I just want to make sure everyone's gotten into theirs okay. I know I'm talking to Ed offline. Ed, I will get a hold of you and we will figure this out. But, oh, was that you, Ed? Go ahead.
Yes, good.
Okay, all right, so I'll get a hold of Ed. Melissa, I also will talk to you offline. We have not generated yours yet, but let's just have a little offline discussion. Thank you. Malia, were you able to get into yours? Perfect.
Yes.
So what I really wanted to talk about, and I think this might actually impact Marcia the most, is if other people are viewing the shared account, which is planningzoning@townofbluff.org, everyone has the ability to see it, who has one of our domains, but I wanted to open up the floor for you all to discuss. My understanding, Marcia, it is your responsibility to answer those emails. Do you have any expectations for other people to view them, or do you think it's appropriate that when one comes to your attention, you will send it out to everyone individually anyway?
I have in the past sent it individually anyway. I believe that's what we'll keep doing. I think that should be a discussion of Amanda, Marcia, Erin to figure that one out. I cannot expect these guys to have to check and check and check because some of it is nonsense they don't need to know, but quite often, like the Sharon Collyer question, I think is a perfect example of it. Came in on planning and zoning email, and do I want to send it to everybody so we're all on the same page for the meeting, that sort of thing. So I think this, if it's okay with the rest of everybody, will be a procedural decision over these next couple of whenever. Amanda is knee deep in business at the moment, but as soon as she has a minute, perhaps Erin, Amanda, and I can clarify who's getting what. I'm still going to open it every day, so you guys do not have to worry that people aren't being answered. I'm still going to handle all that. It's just whether we pass it, how we pass it along.
Perfect. I think that makes a lot of sense. And with that caveat that Amanda is not here tonight, I would also recommend that we talk about the digital filing system when she is present. So both of these, I think, unfortunately, will come back. It's like Groundhog Day; they just won't die, but we'll come back to them.
Go ahead, Malia.
I do just have a question about which email it is, because I'm looking at it right now. Is it planning and zoning at Town of Bluff, or is it planning zoning at Town of Bluff?
Planning zoning. And is there a planning and zoning at Town of Bluff?
It pops up when it says
pops up.
choose an email, and when you hit it, it does. There's nothing there.
Okay.
But taking it off would be great if you can, madam.
Thank you for bringing that to my attention. I will try to figure out how to get them to remove that.
Okay.
No, and
planning zoning is correct, Malia. And having said that, it is not wrong for you to want to check. You know, if you guys are opening your own email and you go up to your initials and drop it down and look for planning zoning at Town of Bluff, take a minute to see what's on there. That's fine. It's not a secret. It's just whether or not we're going to have it on the agenda and need it. Good.
I think that the way that it's going right now is perfect. I trust you completely on sending whatever the information that we need to know, that we will get it, but it's also nice to have access in case you are unable to check it at some point and need somebody else to.
Perfect. Great. Yes, Malia, that does make sense, and thank you. Okay, Erin, I think we've got an answer for this evening and an idea that with Amanda, we can get down to the nitty-gritty.
sounds great.
Okay, we will move on to digital filing. Nope, we're skipping that because we're going to do that when we're all together. And we're going to move on to the update LUC Ordinance for clarity. And basically what we talked about was, in some cases, I believe what we talked about was the LUC doesn't necessarily match up quite to the LUC form and confuses people as to which is which and what they need. I believe that that's where we're stuck. So what I might suggest is that we need, and for example, Melissa's question about where is the square footage of where is the acreage of the lot and stuff like that. Those kinds of things are what we need to clarify so both of them match up. I don't know. I actually apologize because what I didn't do was prepare for that as a sort of something to follow through. And perhaps what we might do is write down some comments or things we remember and then do that for next time where we line up the two documents to follow through with. Does anyone have any comment on that or suggestion to it? Because I do apologize. I don't think we got ready for that. I believe that on the packet that Amanda sent out, she did give us the RV information, but I don't believe she gave us LUC information. Does that feel correct? Yeah, Malia's nodding. So let's do this. Does anyone have any comments or notes for LUC this evening? Or shall we in fact line that up for the next meeting as a little chart of of the two pieces?
Marcia, may I ask a question?
Go, Melissa.
Is this like, are we trying to brainstorm how to make that form and that process easier, or is there something more specific?
You know, I'm sad to say I'm not conversant enough on that answer. And here's my deal. I think it was little things we found, not unlike your suggested of acreage, that didn't line up for the old LUC form, the LUC form and the LUC ordinance.
I do have a suggestion, and I've thought about this, and maybe, I mean, I think we could do it a couple ways. Someone who hasn't really like spent a lot of time with that document to like give feedback on what that process feels like. Someone who's doing that new for the first time, maybe. What does that feel like if you're trying to just submit for an addition to an existing structure? What does that feel like for a full primary structure on a lot? Like, just get some feedback from some people who are willing to give that. And then even if we could talk through the form about when we actually review the land use clearance, what parts of it are we talking about? Are we commenting on? What parts are we always asking for more information about? And it feels like we come back to just a few things, like setback, building height, lights, maybe lot size, and then like zoning. So I guess what I'm saying is the applicability of what's on that form. Like what is it that we actually need to know? And what don't we need to know? But what are we also making sure we find out in case there's something that we do question? So that's what I think about. I had one more thought, but I lost it, so I'll pause.
Okay, come back if it comes back to you, because I know that feeling. I agree, Melissa. I think that, first of all, I absolutely like the idea of questioning a couple of people and saying, did it work for you? I feel like it does because I don't get a lot of confused people calling me. So I kind of feel comfortable. We'll have to double check with Amanda, has she gotten a bunch of phone calls? But I feel like the process is there. I feel like it's more of what you said towards the end, which is what is it that we're missing, that we're asking and not getting, kind of thing. So I'm liking that. Go ahead, Melissa. Did you?
And the other part was, I know at one point we've sort of just talked about this while we're putting things together. In the event that Bluff actually, like, I know this is not today's thing, but like somewhere in the future, in the event that Bluff does have its own building department or the town has an inspector, etc., how do we like make that process easier for that kind of a transition? Again, I know that's not tomorrow's work, but thinking about how we're titling things or how we're like putting things into the form, I believe that was part of some of our discussion. Also, the day that we do have our own building department and our own inspector, etc., we probably have way more things to consider than just the land use clearance form. So for thought.
No, that's true. And typically, one second, Malia, typically there isn't such a thing as a land use clearance. The whole thing is one big application of what are you doing? And we did the land use clearance so that we could say, hey, meet our code, then go get your building permit with the county. So agreed, Melissa, we'll have a different procedure, but go ahead, Malia.
I wasn't actually raising my hand, but I'll speak. I think that what you guys are saying is a great idea. I love all of it. I really like the what are we actually looking at? What are we missing? Especially because it's part of it, right? That's what we're here for. Make it easier for us so we can get them through.
Okay, then I think what I'd like to do then is suggest that with some of these ideas of what are we asking and things like that, that we put together this idea, and I'll work with Amanda a little bit, but everyone put some notes perhaps. If you have time, I know you guys are the working folks of the world and don't have as much time, but any note, like pull an LUC form and write all over it what's missing or what bothers you. Open up the LUC ordinance and go, what does that say? You know, see if a couple of things jump out at you. And if we each did a little bit of that, we'd either all find the same things and be totally right on, or we'll each find a few different things and get it all done. So if I might suggest that as homework, I will tell Amanda that that's what we're putting on for the, for the next piece, and pulling it together. So I'm making an excuse for not having my homework done for this evening. Does everyone agree with that kind of plan? Yes, I'm seeing good nodding. Ed, you're good with that? Okay, let's move on to the next step and assignments on drafting an RV ordinance. Okay, now this one, I believe, Amanda did put into our packet, so we might pull it up. But as I understand it, this is what's happening. We had a little working list of some ideas. There we go. We had a working list of just some ideas of what an RV was and what to do about it and where to put it. And everybody was trying to put in some little thoughts and things. And basically, this is all well and good, but what do we do next? And how do we hone this into what we want? One of the questions I believe we were discussing, or at least that came from me, and I don't know where we go with it, is if this is just a small bit of information, then the RV information could be added to our zoning code, where we talk about what an RV is and we talk about where you can put them. However, if in fact we have all of these things going on that seem to be a whole piece of paper in themselves, perhaps it needs to be a separate ordinance. What I think Amanda might have been ready to say when she said next step and assignments is someone willing to take on a little bit of this and go find it? So, for example, would someone be willing to write down all the definitions of RV and RV park? Would someone, which by the way, we do have some of that in our zoning code already. Would someone be willing to look up the rules for the state and local and county and other areas about what they do for RV ordinances? And I guess what I mean by that is, how are we moving on? I'm open to comments and suggestions, please.
I'll offer one.
Go, Miss Melissa.
I believe that we had this on an agenda at the end of, fall of 2022. And I think we sort of tabled doing anything in that meeting because we knew you, Marcia, had made several comments in the document that we weren't able to address, or let me say it this way, that we wanted you to be there to address, just because we knew you had put a bunch of thought into that. And I believe that this was just sort of a draft of like ideas about what do we need, what do we want to make sure we're addressing when it comes to the RV ordinance. As far as what the next steps are, I don't know the thinking there, but I'm looking at the comments there. They're all from mid-October, early to mid-October. So I think, except for one today, thank you. So I think part of it might be chatting through some of this and then determining what technical definitions or what are we going to keep, I guess, and then what are we going to discard as far as drafting an actual ordinance.
Thank you, Melissa. I do agree with you. And we did, in fact, discuss since October. In other words, we talked a little bit. However, I agree with you that we didn't get too far. And one of the reasons we didn't get too far was also a comment I kind of made, and that was that it is difficult to want to put something together when we don't have the enforcement of where we are. Okay, and this is a reflection on the town is working hard to figure out what and how they're going to enforce all these different regulations. So we were a little bit stymied by what does that mean? But the sort of flip side to that is we should be ready. We could have this information ready to go so that it becomes, whether it's part of the zoning ordinance or an ordinance of its own, that it's ready for the town to accept and then enforce it at its own pace. I think looking at this, that we need to say this takes X amount of time and should be a subject of its own for us to work through. It is almost the end of the night. We're not going to sit here and go through every single one of these points going good, bad, good, bad. So I'm suggesting that we take this information and Amanda comes up with a way to say either an extra half-hour work session at a meeting or some sort of delineation where this is a specific case. Because we keep adding we have to do our work of anything requested by the public and such, and this takes time. So I think my suggestion to everyone tonight is, let me work with Amanda to say we all still want to discuss this and it keeps coming up in some variation. How can we do that best? So if you're okay with that, we're going to move on and not quite accomplish anything on that one either, but at least know that we're ready to make it happen. Does that sound good? Did I just get out of doing some more homework again? Melissa, I love your thumbs up.
I do have a quick comment on that.
Go, Melissa.
I do like your idea of assigning some homework. So even if that is that one of us looks up how we define things, just so that we do have them on hand, even for next meeting, even if next meeting is not our work session, even if we can kind of start working through this a little bit and defining things. Okay. A little bit of homework.
No, I love that, and a reminder is there is already some of that in our current zoning because we added RV definitions and things like that. So maybe the idea is to take those and look around at some other local ordinances or town ordinances to see, and everyone can just do a little searching for what interests them in these notes and something that hits them like, wait, where do you park RVs? What is, because we allow RV parks and we have the definitions for them, but what we're wondering about is where else and how else that means anything. Can people just park, 10 RVs on their backyard? Well, I don't think so, but that's me. So Malia, in answer to your comment, I would say let's everyone just check the list so that next time we talk, we can say, this is what I looked up, or this is the one I'm interested in, or this is where I can help, and see if we can't put something together. Great. Okay. Moving on, we have items for next agenda. And what I'd like to do is take these ones that we just did, LUC and RV, and remind Amanda that we're going to need them on the next agenda. If nothing else, then to just make them into specific assignments and specific timing so that we don't get quite as jammed up as we are. And I take responsibility for that because I sort of didn't know I was chairman until today. So those are two items. Can anyone else tell me of things they thought of for the next agenda? Erin, I guess we can put you back on. We'll just keep you on.
I was gonna say, just put me on. Yeah, let's talk about specifically your shared documents and where
Okay.
those are going to live moving forward.
Okay, excellent. We will put Erin's continued tech advisory.
Yes.
And well, hey, I appreciate it so much, let me tell you. Okay, so we have LUC, we have RV, and we have tech. We're just all these short words. Go, Malia.
Just to keep it in our minds, I know that last meeting we were talking about some sort of solar ordinance or some sort of solar discussion. So keeping that on our mind.
Yeah, the renewable energy discussion.
Yes, that's right. Renewable energy. Thanks.
No, that's excellent because look at what's in front of us now and the things happening. So I like that. You know, if someone comes and wants more than a couple of panels on their house, what are we going to do about it? So I like that. Okay, that's a good one. And hopefully what's going to happen is all of these things are will be part of a meeting that we can break up into actually answering these questions instead of just keep putting it off. So I appreciate it. Okay, we have the next agenda, some good items. We have other as our next agenda item. Does anyone have any comments or notes that they'd like to share with the group? No? Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, it is 6:58. I think we've accomplished, no, I'm not sure we've accomplished, but I know that we've completed our agenda. I really appreciate you putting up with my lack of preparation, but I think we got everything done that that for sure involves the public, because I like answering them in a timely manner. And I think the rest of us have some good ideas of some things we can talk about when we're all together again. And so I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, Malia made the motion, Melissa seconded, and I thank you all for being here. Ladies and gentlemen, we're adjourned. Oh, vote. You can vote for that. Everyone in favor? Aye.
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 Okay. On that cheery note, it is 6:59. Good night.